So it's the 11th of November, Armistice Day, and as well as doing music for the play today, I have actually got a piece of brass music being played during the Armistice celebrations in our village. So that's composed and recorded, and that will be played twice during the day. So that's quite exciting for me. Can't wait to hear that. But otherwise, yesterday I had an email through from Dorothy to say that I've just sat down and listened through each track with the text in front of me and with my stage manager alongside. I love the tracks. The way the Schoss Waltz has developed is fantastic, and all of it carries a terrific texture and nuance that will have a terrific impact on the ambience and atmosphere of the play. Terrific work. So that's really encouraging. You know, all of the tracks now signed off. So the next stage, I'm going to start doing the final arrangements and then creating the stems that Tom, the sound engineer, will need for the actual production. So let's get back into the studio and really crack on with that. Say 11th November. You know, we're getting close. Right, so when I started this project, I set up a SoundCloud account for Moonhare Studio specifically to be able to provide mixes as I went along, and it's always good to have that ability to communicate directly with them and let them hear the sounds. These were work in progress, and then as I got further along I would update these, and these are now all the final mixes, and it includes the folk dance, which I've now finished. And the loop sounds pretty weird because it cuts dead at the end. There's no sort of reverb tails or anything, but you have to do that with loops. You've got to cut dead to the point where it can loop around and get back to the beginning. So let's just have a quick look at that. And so here's the track, and you'll remember it was quite sparse last time, but it had the basic melodies. I've got the main loop which runs through to this point. I've actually doubled it up just so that I can hear and the director can hear how it links in, because as I say, otherwise it sounds like it just comes to a dead halt and you can't really work out what's going on. I've added some nice little bits of percussion down here as well. What have we got? We've got let's have a little look. I'm actually using some of Eduardo Tarolanti's percussion from the Persia series. That's really nice. And Engine 2. What's this one? I think this one is one of the Native Instruments standard ones actually. No, that's Eduardo as well. Do like his stuff. What the shakers? Some shakers. Now these are just from the standard instrument library that comes with Native Instruments. And I find actually if you start delving into some of these little Contact factory libraries, if you've got the full version of Contact and complete, it comes with that, you find some lovely little effects and bits and pieces in there. Don't be afraid to use all these instruments. They look quite vanilla when you look at them. They're nowhere near as sort of posh looking as these, but there's some great stuff in there. So my percussion section, if we solo that up, we've got some nice stuff going backwards and forwards, and in the second section we've got these little shakers going, which are great, and then putting them all together. We've got our guitars here, which are doing all the strumming away, etc., etc. Woodwind's taking one of the lead lines. And in the second sections we have the recorder coming in, doing a little sort of folky, almost penny whistle like line at the top there. And finally our strings, which is two fiddles, different fiddles. Select this one. Let's have a look what we've got here. Yeah, so another Tarolanti one, Turkish violin, which works well with the gypsy sort of feel. This one's probably the Bohemian violin, I think, if I remember rightly. Yeah, that's right. which has a slightly more, I don't know, classical feel, I suppose, but it works really well with the other fiddle. So if we take all of those together, this is how it's working. And what we're going to do then is take this stereo mix and split it up into the stems. Now, I mentioned stems before. Tracks, stems, they seem to get mixed up or used interchangeably, but the tracks are the actual instruments themselves. So I've got 10 tracks of instruments, but the stems will just be these 4 sections here. So a stem of percussion, guitars, woodwinds and strings. So I will give the full piece, the full loop, to Tom as a fiddle track, a strings track, woods, guitars and percussion, and I will give him a stereo mix to use in emergencies. So a stem would be this, or that. So those are the stems. So, there's a lot of terminology here. The tracks are the instruments, the stems are the sections, the loop is the section from here to here that then backtracks and goes to the beginning. Now, we could give this starting section as well, so that he has that to go with, but I think the loop works perfectly well as it is, so that's what I'm going to be providing for him. Now what I need to do is work through cue by cue and split them up into coherent stems. If you were on a movie, you would have, I don't know, 200-300 tracks of different effects and different instruments. There might be live players, VST instruments and all sorts, but the stems give the film editor the chance to be able to have some control over it, but not have 200 things to adjust when he's got all of his Foley and everything else in there, dialogue and bits and pieces. So the stems might come down to about 20, 30, 40 stems for the music, but it gives him some sort of control, and this is exactly what I'm giving the theatre sound engineer, the control to be able to mix these levels or just literally place them wherever he wants in the auditorium. Right, it's Friday the 16th of November. It's 18 days before the play opens, and I have been working all week. Every evening I've just been putting in a couple of hours and getting the final mixes and the stems done. I've had some really good feedback from both Tom and Dorothy. They've been using the music in the live rehearsals, the dress rehearsals. It's been working really well. The dances have gone really well as too. I've been able to do some slight adjustments to the order of things. I've also got the very last stem finished today, so that is my last tick. That's great. So that sheet is complete and I can ditch it. So what I've done, as you can see here on my SoundCloud account, I've actually got the final mixes, but I've also got the stems for every single cue all set up here. You'll see we've got it split up into 4 stems here. So we've got chamber strings. Let's just play that direct from there so you can hear it. So that's just the basic strings in the background. Then we've got this discordant sort of atmosphere underneath from the tundra strings, just making things feel really quite unpleasant. We've got the piano, which is taking that line, and a solo violin. And when you put them all together, you get turn that down a bit. So that's my part of this done now, and I don't know. It feels quite strange actually that I won't be working on this every waking hour of the day, but I'm really glad that I got it done with nearly 3 weeks to spare. It's all being used within the dress rehearsal, so they know what's going on, and yeah, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get along to one of the technical rehearsals and actually hear the music being used for real, and then it's the play itself. So tune in and see how all that gets going.